Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday once again. So glad that you're here to talk about Star Wars Visions with us. It is the part 2 of our roundtable about the latest animated Star Wars project. We are very excited to kind of talk about the rest of the season. We got a little Star Wars news to talk about. And of course, we're going to let you know what's going on in our lives as we always do. We are one short tonight, but we will not waver. We will prevail because Wes, nevertheless, will punch it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Living Force, a UTD Network podcast. Tonight, that is all about Star Wars Visions. And you know what? Because it was technically May during last show, happy Pride Month, everybody. It's June 1st. I did a very fun thing today for the first time in my life. I own property, so I screwed in a little flag holder, and we have this giant Pride flag outside our home now. So if you see it, that's my house. Anywhere in the world. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight to talk all about Visions and, of course, the regular nonsense is a full crew, though not maybe the full crew, starting off with the man who I would kill to see his heart rate activity last night. It's Dr. Charles Hankel. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? Listen, I have a Whoop band like Wes and Corey both do as well. So if you actually want to see that data, I have it available to you.
Oh my God. Put it on Patreon. Charles's NBA Finals Whoop stats is a Patreon exclusive.
They're not good. They're not good.
No, but the Heat are good. The Heat are good. You guys won last night.
At this point in time, we're doing well. It's 1-1 series, NBA Finals. For anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, Denver Nuggets, we split the games on the road for us. So they're going back to Miami for the next two. I think Eric might come over, watch game 4, it sounds like, with me.
Yeah, buddy.
So he will. I don't know if you'll be watching the game or if you'll just be watching like the pulsation in my neck that's there for the entire 2.5 hours, but it'll be a show either way.
Why not both? Why not both? Also, Charles, I hope you appreciate Tim did this last week as well when you weren't here.
I know what he did. The lights, right?
Yeah, we made our lights. Our lights are red now, forever for you.
I listened to the episode, and Wes, it did not escape me that you threatened to turn your screen, my friend.
It was one scene. That's all it was. It was just one scene.
Well, we're happy to have you back, buddy, on a night where there is not an NBA Finals game, but there is, of course, a show, which means we could not exist, we could not function, nay, we could not thrive without the presence of the voluptuous voice you heard just now. It is Mr. Wes Jenkins. Hey, buddy.
Hey, that voluptuous is too much. That's too nice of you.
We found it.
That's not a word.
Yeah. What's going on, everyone? I have missed out on a hockey game that's going on between the Knights and the Panthers. I know that they game 1, I caught a little bit of it. I was at a party on Saturday, so I think game 2 is tonight because I was looking yesterday and I could not find game 2, and I don't understand why they would have a game every other day instead of just every night until they switch cities, but I could be wrong. But I've been keeping up with that before I keep it up with basketball, Charles, because your team is actually in the finals and mine is about 9 years away from it. So I've switched sports.
Trust the process, right, Wes? Just gotta trust the process.
That's absolutely right. It's not lost on me that the Vegas Knights and the Florida Panthers are in the 2 hottest places in the United States. Then they're ice hockey in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's ridiculous.
Gross. However, I got to give a shout out. One of my best friends in the world, Steph Din, who I've known for like 15 years, is a huge Vegas Knights fan. She texted me those updates. So go Knights. Also because we have the Charlotte Knights. So I'm a Knights fan as far as mascots go. But lots of great fun sports happening, lots of fun everything happening. If you're listening and your team of choice is in a final, great. If not, you're like me, you know? And we just live like this all the time. But of course, if you're watching, a quick reminder to make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel to make sure you get all of our goings on. And if you're listening to us on audio, hello. Thank you for putting us in your earbuds and trusting us with your day. Make sure you review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what have you. Just tell people to listen. Even if it's not true, just tell them. But before we get into some of the Star Warsing stuff this week, of course, we want to talk about our weeks. I have 2 updates of my life I wanted to share with you guys, my friends, and of course, all of you listening and watching. As a lot of you may know, Charles, Corey, and I, and some other folks have been making our way through Brandon Sanderson's novels out of nowhere, only, 10 years late. This week, I finished my latest one, which is Warbreaker. I, of course, bought the stupidly expensive, really shiny leather-bound book, and I loved it a lot.
Very
Beautiful.
nice.
Book,
Very
though.
nice.
I like that purple and gold.
It's my favorite one they've had so far. There is some lettering in here that is purple because of a certain character's dialogue, which is a nice touch. And there are illustrations within the book itself.
Oh, nice.
So not that I need to
Pictures.
sell this. I'm not making a commission off it. But there's a
could.
lot of really cool. I could. Dragonsteel, give us that affiliate link. Had a great time. If you're into high fantasy and you love Brandon Sanderson, you've probably read this already. It's a standalone novel though as well, not part of a trilogy, so I liked that as well. I kind of just got to read and listen to it thanks to Hoopla from my local library. And when I wasn't reading or playing Fortnite, y'all, I saw Across the Spider-Verse this weekend, like I guess most of America. It's a perfect movie. It's 10 out of 10. I got nothing to add to the discourse. Go see it. When I left that movie, I was like, well, now I'm just gonna not be seeing this movie. I'll be going to work and doing things that aren't seeing that movie, and that sucks. But the movie's so good, the rest of my life pales in comparison. And today we're talking about other animation.
You're really selling it, Eric.
It's so good. It is a truly transformational film experience. A lot of people have been saying that. A lot of the buzz is obviously very good. It's going to make a ton of money, which is great. But truly, if tonight you like Visions or you're a fan of any kind of animation, no one is doing it like the folks at Sony with the Spider-Verse movies. So could not recommend higher. Wes, I'm not even going to say what you wrote in this outline. Just tell the people what you did, because I am more intrigued than maybe I've ever been about something you've said on this show.
This is the most exciting thing that's happened to me in a long time, and I'm sure everybody is not going to be surprised. So I bought a cow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that checks out.
That's so good. Go on.
Well, I didn't technically buy a whole cow. I bought half a cow, and it is dead, or it's it's going to be dead in the next couple weeks.
This is a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah. So I was using ButcherBox to order meat to my house. So instead of going to the grocery store and paying for meat that I don't know where it's coming from, I started using ButcherBox, where it was grass-fed beef, grass-finished. It was a healthy alternative to going to the grocery store and paying higher markup for a less quality beef, and chicken sometimes too. So I started doing the math. And there are ranches in Texas that will sell you a half cow and a whole cow give you cuts to your liking, custom cut it. And I found out that I'd save quite a bit of money if I just did that, put it in my deep freeze instead of getting a ButcherBox every month. So I did that on Saturday, and I was gleefully excited when the woman called me. We went over the cuts that I was going to have. And when we got to the end of the page, she goes, okay, and this is the last part. Would you like the heart? And I said, yes. Would you like the liver? Uh-huh. Would you like the cheek? You betcha. And would you like the tongue? Put it in there. So I got all the other trimmings that nobody really likes.
Piece.
Yes. I was like, give me all, please. And so I've had tongue before, Eric. I've eaten it. So
I've eaten tongue.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad.
I went to a middle school dance. I've eaten tongue. We didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Oh, Lord.
But yeah, so I have to go pick that up in Schulenburg, which is an hour away from here. So I'm actually excited about it. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna fill the freezer. There's nothing like filling your freezer.
It sounds great. Well, you got me on ButcherBox in my other window here, Wes, now, and I'm looking at all this meat, and I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Maybe I should buy a cow.
How do you get a half cow but get the tongue and the heart and the liver as
Did you get
well.
the top half?
They so first they make sure there's another buyer for your other half, and they give you
if they
half
don't want it.
They give you half the tongue. If they don't want it, they'll give me the whole tongue.
Yeah. Is it like a King Solomon and the baby situation where they're like, "Tell me it's yours," and then you just actually cut it in half?
Well, yeah, and they were pretty adamant that I was going to get everything was from the same cow, and I was just like, I really don't care. I just want the meat. I don't care if it comes from 10 different cows. So it's cheaper than what I was paying, which is smart move on my part, I think. I guess.
Yeah.
And then right before that, I watched a documentary with Bethany about how bad eating meat is. So I was like, this doesn't deter me from buying a
Words
cow,
like
by
a
the
charm. Caroline in the chat, I agree. Wes, the way I'd gotten so excited about the idea that you were getting a pet cow, I thought that Doc was going to have a friend.
Like,
Oh.
like
we were
City
gonna,
Slickers?
watch that.
Like City
Yeah,
Slickers?
yeah.
No, I'm going to eat it.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
I was like,
Well-
did they tell you what his name was before you bought him? I was like, no, I don't want to know his name. I don't
No,
want to
his
know the
name is
cow's
Meat.
name. It's a
Absolutely
number. The
not.
cows have a number. They don't have
Yeah,
a
you're not psychotic. Well, not in that way. Gosh, now you got to keep us updated though when you first cook this steaks or whatever you have. Like, I want to follow this journey of yours.
I'll take a picture of me picking it up at the butcher.
All
It'll
right,
be
so-
packaged. It's not going to be like alive
You're
or
grabbing a
anything.
cow, swinging it over your back and bringing it back to your cave.
I would. Anyway.
Oh, I know you would. You absolutely would. So yeah, I guess Patreon, we're gonna get Charles's whoop statistics during the finals, and then pictures of Wes's meat sacks. So
Okay. Well,
I mean,
neither of those
everything
are true
right. Everything has
yet.
a price.
Everything has a price.
Corey's not here, but it sounds like he's here.
That's right. And speaking of that, you can join our Patreon for actual things over at patreon.com/Utini. And thank you to everyone that has done so, both recently and in the long distant past. We love you all. This past week, you did get a double dose of Patreon content, which included the Seagulls bad lip reading reaction video from our friends at Legends Look Back, which had me freaking rolling. If you, again, I think Tim mentioned it last week. Half the Legends Look Back crew had never seen the Seagulls Stop It Now, Empire Strikes Back lip reading video, and half of them had. So they got a live reaction video of that all happening. Go check that out. And then, of course, I did record a video of my collection of my Funkos and lightsabers and other things I've spent too much money on. I kind of took you through how I put that up and how I organize it. And to everyone who has reached out, actually very favorably to me personally, thank you so much. It actually means a lot because I sit in this office all day and look at my stuff and I like it. So I guess I'm glad that I got the validation. I'm not broken by the American schooling system and needing validation for everything I do. You are. Shut up. Anyway, keep your eyes peeled to Patreon for future outings that we have. All right. Next up, we have just a couple quick things for a Star Wars weekly roundup.
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
All right, two quick things we want to talk about this week. The first is from a little periodical called Esquire Magazine. Part of the fun things about the Star Wars news cycle is that every so often we get the articles and reveals from like your Vanity Fairs, Hollywood Reporters, and Esquire, things like that. And this week we got two brand new images from Ahsoka, which is coming out in 2.5 months ish. Yeah, and they looked amazing. I know we have a couple of them here. Wes, surprise me with what we're gonna see first, because I don't want to cue you up for something that's the wrong image. We run a professional show here. All right, so first of all, we have this Mystery Inquisitor, fully masked up, fully double bladed. And I gotta say, guys, I think this looks like the most live action accurate to animation we've seen so far. What do you think?
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
And I think
Like
it's easier, not really easier, but it's more believable because you have his face completely covered up, and you don't have to worry about people like critiquing the face or the makeup or something like that. It's like, and it kind of reminds me of the Knights of Ren a little bit.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like an actual medieval knight's helmet. He can't see, or she,
Nope.
I don't know if it's a he or she, cannot see out of there whatsoever.
Yeah.
So That's how you're gonna defeat this character. So I'm gonna tell you right now, just come at him from anywhere but straight ahead.
You're good. You know what? That helmet reminds me of one of the helmets that Heath Ledger bangs off in A Knight's Tale and goes flying through the air. It's one of them looks exactly like that. If you know, you know. Yeah, definitely vision problems. So maybe they see with the Force. I don't know. I did see a conspiracy theory, which I just want your guys' initial reactions on. I do not believe in it. And I know we don't go a lot into speculation, but some folks were like, what if the helmet comes off and it's freaking Ezra?
No.
I also think no. But what a fun little moment. What a fun little moment that would be. Yeah, Wes, great reaction to that.
What if the helmet comes off and it's Grogu on someone else's shoulders?
It could literally be anybody. Yeah.
Oh my god. What if it's Pedro Pascal? Yeah. He only plays helmeted characters, but not as Din Djarin, just Pedro Pascal. That's all it is. But yeah, this was really cool to see. I like just the style. It looks good. It doesn't look cheap, which I think sometimes we get some Star Wars shots. I'm like, okay, you're in the volume, just standing around, but this looks nice. And then the second one we got, courtesy of Empire. Again, they have a whole article. Definitely go check that out. Was of two of our favorite heroines, Ahsoka and Sabine, hanging out right there. And I do believe Sabine has Ezra's lightsaber. Is that what I'm seeing right there on her waist?
That's what's going around the Twitter.
Yeah.
I saw that as well.
I think so. They look great. I mean, Rosario's Ahsoka, we've seen a pretty good amount now. I think we're pretty used to her. The makeup looks great. The Leku look great. But Sabine, we haven't really seen her as much. You know, got her on the circuit at Celebration. How are you guys liking the transfer of Sabine into live action here? Because her like overly colorful style, I feel, could go either way. Especially like some of those season 3 Mandalorians we saw that were just too pastel and didn't look the best.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think she looks good here. The hair, I think, is the biggest thing that might take me out a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, I think the armor looks great. It definitely is a more muted version of what we see in animation. And I mean, everything that translates from animation to live action, it's not 1-to-1. So, I mean, I'm not really expecting it to look exactly the same. I think she looks great, though.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of kind of blending rebel style attire plus her love of art and colors and stuff. But if they change her hair like every other episode, then that would probably bring me in a little bit, because she had like different hairstyles each season of Rebels. Not every season, but I think like 2 or 3 times her hair had changed. So that would be cool to see if they added that in there. But we'll see.
Yeah. A great question in the chat here about the timeline of Ahsoka the White, which we see, you know, where at the end of Rebels, we do see, very Gandalfian of Ahsoka coming in and being like, we got to go find Ezra. And Sabine's like, yes, but at that point, we see Ahsoka here, of course, in a very gray robe. So is that going to be a huge thing? I don't know. However, that being said, hold on. I got it behind me. Where is she? There she is. If we could get this version of Ahsoka in the show, this is my white Ahsoka. Oh gosh, gotta focus. There we go. I love this like huge white cloak of hers, and I love the staff. I don't think we're gonna get it. I do think this is gonna be somewhat out of it, but again, looks good. I love that we're now in the press cycle of Ahsoka's the next thing, and I think we're gonna keep getting more and more. And I mean, given how these things go, I feel like it's gonna be Ahsoka time before we know it.
They need to make a cut together of Treebeard carrying Merry and Pippin through the woods and dropping them at the feet, and it's just Ahsoka instead of Gandalf.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. I am Ahsoka the White.
The White Wizard will know.
That would be the best. So that's gonna be awesome. Again, we don't have an exact date of that yet in August, but I know it's August. So knowing Star Wars, it'll be like August 31st, I think, or something like that. So very stoked for that. But speaking of The Mandalorian and associated folks, we did get a Star Wars star getting a star this week. Of course, Carrie Fisher, drastically overdue previously, got her star on the Walk of Fame. But this week, it was none other than Ming-Na Wen getting a star on the Walk of Fame. And good golly God, looks fantastic. Looks fantastic. And also so overdue. I mean, she's been such an icon in nerd culture for all the things she's done. She's did in the Marvel universe, she did in the Star Wars universe. She's just kind of done all kinds of stuff. And just a massive congrats to Fennec Shan for getting on the walk.
Can I ask you a logistical question that I don't know the answer to? And this is not commentary on Carrie Fisher, Ming-Na Wen, anybody else. How much space is like left? Is this just like one street?
I don't
Both
know.
sides. I think it's both sides of the
Both
street.
sides?
Yeah, I think it's both sides of the street.
And so, like, what are they gonna do when they run out of stars?
Hold on. How long? Is it Hollywood Boulevard?
I think maybe some will get retired. Or
Hollywood Walk of Fame.
What you mean?
Okay.
Or
the Walk of Fame runs 1.3 miles east to west on Hollywood Boulevard. So, this is a great question. Are there over 2,500? There are more than 2,500 stars right now. But also, we know very famously how many feet are in a mile. 5,280 feet. You pick this ball up, you run every one of them, you're killing me, Petey. That's how I remember.
1,760 yards.
But that star it looks like it's probably like 2 by 2.
That's true. So 25. We're getting close.
I mean,
you might be onto something there, Wes.
One day you're just gonna retire Marlon Brando and replace him with whoever, I don't know, some
Machine
baby
Gun
right
Kelly.
now that's gonna. Yeah, oh my God. Stop it! You stop it right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. This is interesting. Wow.
I
so
imagine
$75,000 though. Oh my God.
I imagine they find a new place.
What?
They find a new place to put the stars after this. They retire the Hollywood Walk of Fame and they make it like something else. Something
they put it like
behind
behind like an In-N-Out drive-through. You're just like, yeah, put the stars over here.
I don't know that you want to get your star on the Walk of Fame on the Hollywood Boulevard, man. That place is a dump. Sorry.
What costs $75,000?
Getting a star.
You gotta pay for it.
One?
Yeah, you got to pay for it. It's a sponsorship fee. It pays for the installation. It's also like something like that.
That's not as cool anymore. Okay.
It's not
congratulations to Ming-Na Wen.
Every month you have to rent.
Yeah, no, we love you.
75 grand a month.
All right. Well,
that's not
fund
true.
the upkeep and minimize further taxpayer burden, which tells me there is some taxpayer burden for the Walk of Fame. Oh my God, can you imagine paying your freaking property taxes and it's like the Walk of Fame? I'm like, go die.
Oh, you mean that person that made millions?
Yeah. Although if you're buying property in Hollywood, I think you're probably fine. But congratulations, Ming-Na Wen. Tons of Star Wars actors, I'm sure, to come up there in the future. But speaking of the future, so many things come out in the future. Ahsoka, the future movies. But before all of that, we have future books. This week, our friends at Penguin Random House Worlds did send over the early copies digitally of Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah S. Dawson. I've started reading just the first couple chapters of that. But if you want to make sure your pre-order gets in for July 18th, go over to utini.com to our release schedule and make sure you have your pre-order set. So you're going to get that the day it releases. And while you're over there, just have a good time at the site. Check out the timeline. Check out the articles. Check out anything and everything you want. Because I think we had ads on the site now. So, like, click on it, right?
Yeah.
That's how that works. I'm not in that Slack channel. I don't understand how it all works. I just assume it's all good for us. So, head over to utini.com and help out the site in whatever way you want. Now, for our main part of our show tonight, we are finishing up our conversation on Star Wars Visions Season 2. Last week, we went through the first 4 episodes, which I think overall we were like, yeah, pretty good. Not really going to revisit. It wasn't necessarily our cup of tea and what we go to Star Wars for, but we all agreed it was kind of a cool idea. And this year, they really got a lot more different styles than last year. Charles, we missed you last week as you were punished with a heat loss. I'm not saying that's why they lost, but, you know, causality. What did you think of the first 4 episodes of this season before we dive into the new ones, just kind of as a whole?
Good question. I knew it was coming. I can only really comment on the first episode, Sith, because that was the only one of the first 4 that I watched.
I knew it.
Once it became apparent I was not going to be on that episode, I was like, I gotta just prep for the other ones. And there were 5 for this week, guys. There were 5.
That's true. That's true.
I only watched the first one, which I did enjoy quite a bit. I have some commentary on this season as a whole after having watched those 6 in total. I am going to go back and watch the other ones, especially because that Wallace and Gromit one I missed, right?
That's right. Yep. I Am Your Mother.
Have to watch that.
Yeah.
Have to watch that.
So solid. And Trev on our team is fighting a one-man crusade about how that is the best one. Although I guess Corey said that last week too, so maybe they're a fearsome duo. But fair enough. Lots of fun with Sith. So let's go into these new ones, and then we'll get all of our thoughts on the second season and what we think going forward as far as this initiative goes. So, full spoilers ahead, by the way. For the second half of Vision Season 2, that's Journey to the Darkhead, Spy Dancer, the Bandits of Golak, the Pit, and Au's song. Full spoilers ahead. So, just so you know. All right, episode 5, Journey to the Darkhead. This was done by Studio Mir out of South Korea. They worked on a bunch of projects, including The Legend of Korra. Huge fan of Legend of Korra myself, and I know a lot of folks in the community are as well. In this episode, we see a mechanic from the Outer Rim as she travels back to her homeworld in order to destroy an ancient dark statue that may be powering the Sith in their war against the light. A young Jedi joins her and comes face to face with an evil from his past that threatens to turn him to the dark. On their treacherous journey up a massive mountain, the pair discover the true meaning of balance. Now, last week, we talked a lot about how different the animation was from season 1, how it was really non-traditional. This one really felt like more of a traditional anime style.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that they worked on things like Legend of Korra, that makes total sense. What did you guys think about going to this more traditional style as opposed to, even from Sith, last week, could not be more different. How'd you feel going back to this kind of art style?
Well, I liked it because it was familiar. Which is weird considering things I'm going to say later on about enjoying the uniqueness of this entire initiative. But it was not as hard to get into. Like, there's some moments in some of the other ones we're going to talk about where it was 5 minutes in before I really felt like comfortable with what I was seeing. And it didn't become like a thing I had to think about. Like, I watched enough, anime back in the day, whether it was like Dragon Ball or like Naruto, and it looks very similar to this kind of animation. So it was a lot easier, I think, to jump into this story.
Yeah, I weirdly enough, there was a lot of shows I used to watch on Nickelodeon when I was a young child, way back when, and that was all anime, and I never even realized it. And so when I see these types of animation in these studios to put this out, I'm like, that is very familiar to a couple of the ones that I watched when I was growing up. And I wish I had known, because I probably would have gotten into a little bit more anime growing up. But yeah, it was very familiar. It was good storytelling. The colors and the lights and everything were great. And I really dug the I guess the Sith Lord. I think it was a Sith Lord, but his mask that he was wearing the entire time before he threw it away is so cool. Such a cool
with his
concept.
Unnecessary like scarf hanging from the mouth.
Yeah,
from the face.
But it was also his mouth a little bit. That's what I was like. I love anime costumes like that. They're like, I don't know, it's a scarf, but also a mouth, and it kind of moves. Yeah, I really like this as well for that reason. I feel like I could key into it. It also felt very Star Wars from the jump. Like, the aesthetic was very similar. We got the dirty ships. Like, I knew exactly kind of what to expect. And then once we started with the combat, when the speeder was going up the mountain with that lightsaber duel, I was like, okay. Like, felt kind of like the Solo train heist meets like an epic lightsaber battle. And I really loved the visual language of that. Now, I will say this one, because of all the stuff that happened with our main character, her and her homeworld, and then the young Jedi, and then losing his master, and that flashback, and then the Sith wanting to bring him in, and then the dark head statues. This one I felt like could have been a little longer. I felt like I learned a lot. It was really fast. Yeah. And like by the end, I was like, oh, I like what they did here. Like, I think it was a good story. But kind of similar to Ronin in what they did with the book. Like, oh, I probably could have used a full-on story or novella about, like, this planet and these statues and their lore and how's the war going? What's going on with that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of a burden on these animated studios. They probably have, I mean, I'm sure they do. They have a story to tell and a much longer story to tell, but they are only given, between 16 and 20 minutes to get their like best interpretation of their Star Wars out to everybody. And then, sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. So, like you may like, I've written a lot of essays for school and like the first part's really, really good. But then I find out that I'm like the test is about to be over. You have like 6 minutes left before class is over, and you're like, and in conclusion, you just try to wrap it up really fast. But in a sense, it's like with this, you have to do it in a condensed version. I feel like they could have had like much long. This could have been at least 30 minutes. You could have had a little bit more backstory on how that whole like vision with the rocks and kind of how they saw the future or the past with the with that Sith or that Jedi Master. So that was interesting in the very beginning. That was very interesting where they used those people to figure out like what will happen in the future, what happens in the past. They just write it down and like we can't change anything, but we're just gonna write it down. It's like tell somebody, dude. Tell someone it's gonna happen.
Very much like the wills in that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one thing about the like not having much time to tell your story, well, there's two things really, but the first one is sometimes I think plot points get lost, and maybe this one was just lost on me. Maybe they do explain it, but I didn't understand how she ended up at the Jedi Temple asking like permission to then go back to her homeworld and do something, and then she got granted this Jedi to accompany her, and then he was like, why did you need a Jedi? And she was like, I don't. And I was like, why did you end up at the temple? I didn't understand that at all. Like, do y'all have an answer for that? I don't think it was explained.
In the very beginning, I thought she was a Jedi because she was in front of the council.
I did too.
So,
Yeah. So that specific got a little murky. Absolutely.
Well, all that to say, my biggest gripe with these, and overall, to be clear, I enjoyed them, and I enjoyed this one. My biggest gripe is that all of these stories, and I would do this too as a creator, they want to tell like this epic moment, right? You want to tell like the most epic moment. You got to set it up. And then the last 33% of your episode is some cool fight. And then you close, right? But it kind of feels unearned because like I just found out who you were like 7 minutes ago. And now I'm supposed to care that you're fighting someone with some deep backstory that I got 30 seconds of. You know what I mean? So I love how they really are reaching like for these epic over the top moments, and the battle on the mountain and up on the statues with the two different sides and the balance and falling through that. I mean, it was all incredible. It was fun action, but at the same time, I was just like, what's this guy's name again? You know what I mean? Which is like, it can't have the weight that I think they want with that time constraint. I think that's the issue with it. Like if they would take this and like they did with Roan and say, you know what, a lot of people love this one, there's a lot of potential here, let's give it a short like a mini series. I think I would almost like Visions more as like a bunch of mini series where you give a studio 3 episodes, 30-minute episodes to tell a story, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why, like in season 1, 2 of the standouts were like the Village Bride and the Ninth Jedi, right? Because they were like, here's our main characters. In Village Bride, you met, I think Elle was her name or whatever, and the Master, and there was this one bride in the village that they had to save. Small story, and you didn't learn a lot about Elle, but then that Jedi reveal at the end, and she saved him, boom, day over. Great story, wanted more, but didn't need it. And Ninth Jedi, we met her and her father at the beginning, and we got time with just them for a while to figure out what was going on, and then we figured out the Jedi plot, and then like it was just smaller, contained stuff. And I do feel like this one tried to tell us the mechanics backstory, the Jedi's backstory. There's also a war going on, and then the myth about the statues and everything like that. That being said, though, I did want to ask you guys one thing about this episode. We got a lot about the balance of light and dark again, which really kept happening in this season of Visions. They all work independently, right? So it's not like they really planned this. But I guess philosophically, do you guys think in Star Wars world the whole, it needs to be light and dark in together, and then that is how life goes forward? Do you think that actually still makes sense in the theology of Star Wars? Because I feel like George Lucas was like, Emperor's bad, Jedi are good. And we spent 40 years being like, well, maybe balance means everything. And I guess this episode made me be like, nah, man, you got to get that red stuff out. You got to get rid of that. That is evil.
Yeah. I feel like they've elaborated. The funnel was, at the cone when it was Jedi good, Sith bad, and it's just progressed outwards, and now it's like there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of mixing of the colors and make it purple.
No, can't say gray. Can't say gray Jedi.
Sorry, purple,
Don't do that.
Purple,
Don't do
purple
that.
Jedi. So no, I know what you're saying. So yeah, I think it's been, I guess, expressed where both the light and the dark have to be in symbiotic, like, motion together to be able to be a balanced force. But that's kind of where we ended up, to be honest with you. But
yeah,
I think it's a difference though between like, are you talking about things in broad strokes, or are you talking about specifics, right? Because like, if you take the step back and you talk about it the way that Luke did in The Last Jedi, where like you can't have life without death, and things die and they decompose and they give, nutrients needed for the next part of life and all that kind of stuff. Like, yes, of course, if you consider that light and dark, then like, yes, there needs to be a balance between those things.
mm-hmm.
Whereas if you get into specifics, like a lot of the things the Sith are doing, be it force lightning or force choking people, you don't need that. I mean,
you don't need force lightning.
That's a little much, guys.
Yeah.
So I think that you can kind of, if you get it in too small and too specific of a thing, it doesn't make sense anymore. This story kind of did both, because there was the vagueness of the statues and like the colors in them, but then it was also very specific about this one Jedi's fight against the Sith, who, by the way, had a very Obi-Wan moment in episode 1, right? Like at the end of the fight.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. Again, I wasn't that invested in that specific kind of Jedi story to begin with, so it didn't really mean a whole lot to me in the moment.
And also, is this their interpretation of Yoda? Is that who this is?
No.
I got a Yoda type being when I thought about it. If only.
Camel and a hamster put together.
Yeah,
is what
clearly. Jedi Master Campster. Yeah. Love that guy.
Campster.
All right, so that one was, a little more time would have been great, but very big, light side, dark side vibes. Now our next one, episode 6, completely different, in more ways than one. This was The Spy Dancer, from Studio La Cachette from France. They've worked on a bunch of stuff, including, fun fact, Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, I found out. So they worked with Genndy on some stuff. Within this short, a dancer at a famous Imperial nightclub uses the power of spectacle to distract stormtroopers and plant trackers on officers to help the burgeoning rebellion. However, she slips up when she believes that she spots an enemy from her past, and the whole operation is put in danger. However, after she and her sister take on the entire battalion within a single performance, she discovers that the phantom she feared is someone far different and far more important. Thus far, I think this is probably the most visually unique one that we found. So I just want to get your guys' initial vibe on this episode. Charles, I'm going to call you out. You did write in our Slack.
I didn't like it.
Didn't like it. Go on, expand.
I did not like it. This was one, I think, that the animation style took me the longest to get into. I mean, by the end, like, I knew kind of what I was looking at, and like, it didn't take me out of it per se. This happened to not be my cup of tea. I felt like
you hate the French.
No, I don't hate the French.
You're a freedom fries kind of guy, huh?
It feels unfinished. It feels unfinished to me. Like it almost feels like halfway between a storyboard and a finished product. And
interesting.
For whatever reason, I just didn't prefer it.
Not your style, for sure. Wes, what do you think, man?
This was the favorite of the 5 for me. I really liked it. So I thought it was a little too convenient that the person that she thought was basically like the Krennic that came and stole her baby was the actual person that did it. And then she showed up and it was like, oh my God, who are you? And it's like, of course it's my son here. Like, I mean,
it's Star Wars, man. It's always your baby.
But I think I liked the story. I liked the concept. I liked how they incorporated like all the ribbons, like you see in like Cirque du Soleil or something like that.
Yep.
So that was really cool to see. But the story itself, at the very spoiler alert, obviously, but these type of species that the lady and I don't know if that's her daughter or that's somebody that's
I think it's her sister.
okay.
Yeah.
And the like the mechanic or something that gentleman there, they all had these same like horns, I guess, on their forehead. So
And different colored eyes.
different colored eyes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh yeah, because he had the eye patch. That's right.
And then towards the end, like so this gentleman that she was about to assassinate turns out to be her son, who was taken by the Krennic lookalike and groomed to be a Empire agent or an Empire. It looks like some type of a general or something, but he's higher up. And then she hugs him at the very end and gives him a tracker. And before that, I mean, she was throwing trackers all over the place. So everybody was watching the show, and she was just tossing trackers out like nobody saw these things. And they were all getting stuck on their back, or they were getting stuck on their gun, or getting stuck on their helmet.
Dude, they were beeping loudly, and one of them was literally stuck inside a helmet where your ear would go. I was like, that's the worst throw ever.
Killed it.
But towards the very end, he takes his hat off, and he feels like his horns that he, I'm guessing, had cosmetically removed.
Yeah,
So,
that's the vibe I got.
Yeah, he has. So he has like a blemish there where you can tell. So I thought that. I mean, I thought that was a good story told within. I think this one was 20 minutes though, right? So this was a little longer than the other ones.
Was she a Jedi? Was she Force sensitive?
I don't think so.
Because she did insane things beyond just ribbon dancing. Like there was one point where a stormtrooper shot at her point blank.
Oh yeah,
three times,
she
and she dodged all three of them. And I was like,
yeah.
what? Like
She was using her pointer killer to deflect bolts.
Deflect, yeah.
right. Like, how are you doing that? I don't. There are
practice,
moments in
dude.
these where, like, yeah, I guess there are
Get
moments
good.
in these though that don't adhere to classically Star Wars kind of rules, if you will.
That's true.
Which is part of the fun. Don't get me wrong, but there's a couple things like that. I will say specifically took me a little bit out of that when I was like, oh, okay, she's Force sensitive, and that's why that Imperial officer must have stolen her baby. Otherwise, is he just kicking in doors and stealing their babies and raising them as his own children? But apparently, no. Apparently, he just chose her at random, took her baby, and now he's
like, oh, I'm not gonna kill a baby. I'm not. I'll burn this village down. I'm gonna kill a baby.
Like, why her baby? Why her baby?
I think it's just because it's a baby. I think that's like, I forget what. There's like a classic story that does a similar thing. I can't remember because I got so many like feels of like World War II drama, like Casablanca and stuff like that, where like the Nazis and stuff would come and sit and have drinks in this club, and then like literally in this French restaurant in Casablanca, and they'd have to sing for them, and like that idea of having to sit and perform entertainment for your captors and for these fascist government things felt so real. And it almost felt a little Andor-esque to me, of like watching the Empire come in, like when Cassian goes to that club in the first episode and those cops are there and he's just like, I'm not messing with you. I'm not doing anything. But they're always kind of looking for a fight. And watching her do her dance, which, yes, thank you, Jared, which he did with the power of anime on her side. Like just the amount of volume and space she took up, like realizing both, one, how beautiful it was and how skillful she was, but then also the emotionality of having to perform for people that took your child from you for years and having them be like, yeah, you're so good. This is so fun. I'm just a derpy dude. Like, was I think a really nice choice. And similar to you, Wes, I get how the animation can kind of be different for some folks. This is probably my favorite out of this batch as well. I think it just emotionally hit really well, and I really liked the, I guess, risks it took with bending the ideas of reality. Because I think that while I also did not know necessarily the laws of the universe by the end of the episode, I still had a really good time watching it. And this might be one that I do return back to if I do at all, just for the visuals, and because I think at the end they really stick the landing there. This last moment of him kind of realizing, what's better than sons realizing they've failed their parents in Star Wars. It's so classic. Now the next one though is one of, speaking of classic, I think is maybe the most classic Star Wars one we get in this particular batch. This is the Bandits of Golak by 88 Pictures out of India. And in this one, a brother and sister are making their way to a secluded village to find safety from the Empire. Again, another Empire. I like the Empire episodes best, I think. On the way, the sisters' latent force abilities make themselves known, and they put the pair in massive danger. As they finally seek refuge in their calm destination, the safe haven is revealed to be a hidden Jedi temple, where a surprising master fends off the Inquisitors who have come to take the child away. This was straight up a Clone Wars episode. This was visually very similar. I felt like the storytelling was very much like, oh, this was on a planet. And I could easily see this being a one-off in like Clone Wars Season 5. You know what I mean? Yeah. With Purge Troopers from Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And I mean, you say a Clone Wars episode. I say... Well, I guess so. I mean, I'd say Rebels, basically, just because I've seen the Inquisitor blade on his back. Yep. But this guy's mustache game was off the charts, right?
Oh,
unparalleled. Unparalleled.
But this, and we were talking a little bit before the show started, but this was like the animation in this one and these. I'm gonna steal what you're talking about, Charles. The slow-mo that was in it. Also
so
like
cool.
Look at screenshot you're sharing with us, and then I want you to continue. Look at like straight up Terra Sanube back there. Out of Clone Wars. In the back right.
That is true.
I love seeing him.
Yeah,
I love seeing him.
The slow-mo that they had in there, and then also the fighting and the dual saber that the Jedi had. That was super cool. So this story felt to me like it was thoroughly thought out to where it was like, we only got 15 minutes. Let's make it balanced from beginning to end. And why doesn't that little girl just listen to her freaking brother? Stop messing around and
she's having
floating
so much
stuff.
fun. She's having so much We're playing bandits, Wes.
There are lollipops. There are lollipops around. You can't expect her to act rationally.
I mean,
bro, there was a moment where, you know how in Jedi Fallen Order, there was that meme where Grease is just pouring salt for like
endlessly
5 minutes straight in that cutscene. There was a point in this episode where that guy who's selling lollipops was just compiling maybe 15 lollipops for us. I'm like, who is buying all of these lollipops?
I know.
It was an excessive
even in the camp,
amount.
like
Some
that's what
rich
they were
jerk.
eating for dinner. I was just like, guys,
I am kind of hungry.
Anything from the trolley deers? Like very much.
We'll have the lot. This one I think was maybe tied for my favorite. It might be my favorite. I might come back and say it's my favorite by the end once we talk about the others. Part of it I think was the familiarity for the animation style, because it was very Clone Wars. But the other part of it was exactly what you said, was it felt well thought out. Like this was a great execution of a story from beginning to end. Like even the tiny little things that they did that came back later on with the flute and whatnot, like all of it really, really well done. I don't know. The sandstorm, the fight was very epic. I mean, all of it. And the Inquisitor, by the way, terrifying. Like they're
very scary.
Yeah, there are Inquisitors who I don't find scary. Like they're just kind of goofy and like this and that. Even though we ended up seeing this guy die after a couple of minutes, like he was terrifying. Yeah.
And I love the Jedi Master as well. You know, I'm a sucker for I just have a cane, I'm old, to like, nope, it's a lightsaber. I mean, speaking of Terra Sanube, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like love that. And I loved the protectiveness she had over this temple. I loved the parting of the water, and then it turns out it was a secret underwater cave entrance.
Straight
I'm like,
biblical, bro.
Straight biblical, man. We're talking Solomon. We're talking Moses.
No, but the water and stuff in the sandstorm specifically looked very good. Like for being animated, I was very impressed with those kind of elements.
That is one of the hardest things to do in animation, is to do water, because it can, it looks fake because it looks fake. There's either it's fake or it's like they did pretty good, but there's no really in between. You have to like kill it with the water animation. So
nobody in a video game has ever drank a glass of water convincingly. Ever. Yeah, no, this one top to bottom though, I did end feeling like I didn't need more. I would like it, but I didn't feel robbed or rushed.
Yeah.
So super well done. Huge fan of that. And I also like the fact that like this was a studio out of India, and as you watched it, you're like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's tons of cultural references, all the character models, things like that. Like it was very much we're shooting our shot, we're honoring our culture while making it as Star Wars as possible. I'm like, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
You know what else I
phenomenal.
thought this one did well? I thought that it had like a healthy balance or like a good Star Wars-esque balance of action and humor. Like
Yeah,
in
great
particular,
point,
when
great
things
point.
are so tense in that moment before the battle happens and all of the trays of food drop on people and those two guys that have been arguing the Ugnaught and whatever they're
Yeah,
trying
he
to
hits him.
he just hits him with the pan like for
Yeah.
just to get a little revenge. Like
Yeah.
that, I don't know. It felt very Star Wars to me, top to bottom. So I really loved it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I like stopped right on
Yes.
this. He just
Yes.
backhands him. He doesn't even hit him. That's
It's
even
so
worse.
funny. It's so
I
funny.
love it.
Yeah. Really, really, really great episode. And then we got episode 8, The Pit. So here's this episode.
It was the pit.
It was The Pit. It's from a studio called Arch Tashio and Lucasfilm Limited, actually. People from Lucasfilm worked on it, but the main studio is out of Japan. Within this episode, a group of people are imprisoned and put to work digging a giant pit for the Empire to mine Kyber. Once the work is done, they are then left to die until one of their own climbs out to get help from the surrounding city. Unfortunately, his cries are largely ignored, and the Empire seizes him and returns him to the pit where he is thrown to his death. However, the people are drawn to the chance of those who remain and end up rescuing them after all as they follow the light to find them. Fun fact about this episode, a lot of folks may have noticed, Daveed Diggs of Hamilton fame stars as Crux, who is the main kind of dude. Very recognizable voice. This one wasn't that good.
So this one, if I
I have
could
a lot of
just
questions
jump
about
in,
it. So
Yeah, like this one to me, the idea, if you boil it down, I see how it has to do with Star Wars. But like outside of the basic idea of like follow the light or whatever, literally didn't need to have anything to do with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Bunch of people dug a pit, stuck at the bottom. They
Yeah.
hope that people find them and they do. It didn't need to be the Empire. It didn't need to be anything else. I mean, it
That's
just
what, like a couple hundred yards
it's
outside?
very
Like,
close.
that's
I mean, it's
very close.
yes.
Yeah, and they didn't follow the light. They followed their
The
voices
sound.
screaming
Yeah.
for help. Like, I mean, just yeah. It. I don't know. I did not enjoy this one at all. It was easily my least favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things in here. It's actually pretty sick. You know, like first of all, how do you find the area to dig? Did they start in a smaller part of that corner of that hole there and just kept going around and around and around until they found the right spot, or do they have like a giant Kyber detector or something that floats over and they're like, up right here, start
Kyber
digging here,
detector?
start digging here. But like, and they did. I was like, all right, we hit the bottom, leave them, and then just take off. But then, like he's.
What was the bottom, by the way? You didn't. You hit the core of the
I feel like
planet.
it's the core of the
why is
planet.
there a
Yeah,
or
bottom?
something
like-
that.
And where were all the yellow spotted lizards that are supposed to be on these holes?
I'm tired of digging.
Hey, dude, damn.
Well, and then so the guy, like the main character, is trying to climb out, and he's like, "I'm gonna climb out. I'm gonna go get help, and they're gonna come." And they're like, "No, just stay down here. It's safer." It's like you're gonna starve to death, dude. Like
Yeah.
how else?
It's gonna rain. It's gonna fill.
That's
I mean,
it.
I've seen this play out a lot of times. Roller Coaster Tycoon back in the day. I used to just dig holes and leave all the patrons in there once I got bored.
So
the food prices are too high. Drown for it then.
yeah, there was that kind of morbid action sequence, I guess if you call it that. But then the main character gets caught, and they don't just push him in. They do one of those things where you and your buddies at the pool when you were like young kids, you would want to like you swing them back and forth,
Yeah.
and then throw them in the pool. Like I was like, this is a animated. This is a cartoon. It's fine. You're gonna throw him in. He somehow survives. And no, he died.
Nope.
He fell to his death. He was
Like hard.
like super hard, and he wouldn't have looked. That's great because they didn't show his face. I'm sure his eyes popped out of his head or something down at the bottom.
Oh yeah, it was probably awful.
They just put a sheet over
Yeah.
him. But like that was it. And then
Yeah.
the people came because they heard everybody like screaming and crying, not because they heard the light. But the mother was there, was like, you're right. She's listening to this daughter. It's like, they need to see the light or something like that. And she's like, you know what? You're right. And I was like, no, you're not right. Your child just died, and you need to scream for help because these people need to help you.
No, that's the thing. It's like everyone starts like calmly chanting, "Follow the light." And I'm like, were y'all not just screaming, "Help!"
Oh my goodness, help!
Like,
We're stuck here.
we could have figured this out a long time ago. That dude did not need to die.
And this one also had a post-credit scene.
Did it?
Where it was
which was the best part. Those little aardvark looking guys were my favorite part of this whole
Yeah, they're
episode.
great. And then they showed like the graffiti tag, which looked cool, but I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It didn't really feel meaningful.
No.
Sorry,
That was it. So
it.
I mean, it looks pretty, but yeah, this one was kind of a miss. Stephanie in the chat loved it. Great.
Fight me.
Fight me, I shall not. But we will chuck you into a pit like in a pool. Oh,
I'm glad people loved it. I will say
yes,
that about it.
absolutely. And then we finish off with Au's song, which is from Triggerfish, which is a South African animation company. Very unique. This one goes like this. Au, a young child on the planet filled with Kyber, another Kyber story, discovers that she has a unique talent. When she sings, it awakens Kyber crystals littered throughout her planet. Her gift is discovered and almost brings destruction to her family, but eventually she's able to utilize it to cleanse all of the Kyber crystals on her planet from Sith influence, and she follows a local Jedi to study among the stars. So this one was very, very different because it has this yarn aesthetic that we're seeing on screen right now.
Mhm.
All the characters are kind of like stop motion, yarn, felt animated.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about familiarity this episode and how that kind of was good and rough at some points. Zero familiarity with the visual style of this one. What'd you guys think about this, and how did it draw you in with its kind of more subtle, emotional story?
This one didn't hit for me, plain and simple.
Fair.
But thing that I really thought was cool was, even though it was animated, I mean, you could see the little fibers that were on the end of her nose and like off of her face. Like it was legit yarn that you were looking at. So I don't know if it was actual like a little yarn character that they made or a little stuffed animal or something, but it was legit like very, very detailed to where you can see like the little fibers coming off of their face. So I thought that was neat. But
we gotta watch the behind the scenes thing we gotta go watch the behind the scenes stuff that Tim talked about last week to see what that was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I am going to sound like a gigantic hypocrite, but
Do
I
it.
loved this one. This is the one that is tied with the Bandits one for me, for my favorite out of these ones at least. Well, actually out of the 6 that I've watched.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I thought it's almost like if you're gonna be unique, like be really unique.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, to go back to the dancer one, right? Like there were a lot of aspects of it visually that were unique, but it still was trying to really draw upon a lot of classic Star Wars things. And so it felt almost like a clash to me in a way. Whereas this just felt like it felt yes. This one was so unique, and it didn't try to be anything other than what it was. And I really, really loved that. I don't know. I thought the animation was so impressive. Like the story was so different. I don't know. I really can't explain it. Even like the singing aspect and like the voice aspect was all so unique. I was just kind of entranced. This was one where I didn't check how much time was left.
Totally.
And that's a very telling thing if it's only 18 minutes long.
Yeah. I gotta say, I was listening to it and I'm like, kid's voice is fine. Could I get a better singing kid?
Like,
no,
like freaking Randy from American Idol. Wasn't that his name? He's like, it's a no for me, dog.
It's a no for me, dog. Listen. I'm glad you're awakening and cleansing all that Kyber, but you're not going to Hollywood. Sorry.
You're not beating. You're not
going to Vegas or whatever. Yeah, I think I'm kind of somewhere in the middle of you guys. This one didn't do a ton for me. I liked it. I guess I'm more in your camp, Wes. Like I really respected the craft that went into it. Like it is super well made, especially when we get to the stuff at the end where like the Jedi ignites the saber and like goes down the mountain and like does that. I mean, that stuff's crazy. 'Cause
That
it's all-
was great.
It's felt. It's yarn. Like it's. How do you do that stuff? I don't even know. And I liked the thematic stuff about the cleansing of the Kyber and stuff. Very Ahsoka-y as far as the book goes. And I'm a huge fan of the bleeding and cleansing of Kyber crystal lore. I think that's always fun. I think they did that very well here. And yeah, as Stephanie says in the chat, I think this one did feel like very innocent and very wondrous and like a child looking at the Force, as opposed to Screecher's Reach from last week, which is a child looking at the dark side and being like, okay, I guess. This is a child using her abilities to cleanse the Force and then go off in search of adventure, which I think is very fun, very Star Wars-esque. So I think it's very true to itself. I think this is actually weirdly, I thought it was one of the shorter ones, if I remember correctly. But I do think similar to Bandits, similar to Skydancer, I think it's told a full story. And then I think retroactively really shows the ones that didn't. Because I don't think it is a timing thing. It's a pacing thing. And it's really what you put in there. I mean, they basically had a crawl, too. I mean, they had that text at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was one thing I enjoyed. That gives you the backstory, much like any classic Star Wars film.
Maybe, honestly, they should all have a crawl. That's a great point. Providing that framework right off the bat is...
Wow, that looks great.
Yeah, that's so cool. You know what the animation reminded me a little bit of? Not that this movie is like felt and like those kind of, I don't know, you can see like the actual particles of whatever the materials. But did y'all ever watch that movie Kubo?
Yeah, Kubo and the Two Strings?
It's
Bro,
so good.
Bro.
It's so good. And for some reason, I got Kubo vibes from this anime.
Oh, you got me there. That's great. God, that movie is fantastic. Guys,
I love that movie.
This weekend, go watch Across the Spider-Verse and Kubo and the Two Strings, and then nothing else. Because they're the best. Yeah, that is a pretty good comparison. And on that note, I want to ask you guys, because Visions is kind of all over the place, which is great to an extent, and I think to another extent, it does hinder it a little bit. But the order of the episodes interests me, because they obviously did something for a reason. I think they put a lot of Sith, the first in the trailer. It's like the center of the poster. They started off with that, same with Ronan, and then ending with this, I thought was a fascinating decision, because it's like, and that's it. And that's what Vision Season 2 is for the viewer. What did you guys think about the choice to end with something that was this different?
Maybe if they get a third season green lighted, maybe they come back around to the light side when they start doing that, because they have season 1 is blue in the like poster or the title scene. Season 2 is red. So I mean, Jared's here now. Maybe season 3 is gray. Maybe it's gray, Jared.
You must be stopped.
I mean, maybe they were like, this has been too dark. Like the lineup is actually too dark. We gotta
a dark season.
End on a light note.
That's a great point. Yeah, because they're looking at the season as a whole. We start out with Sith, which is a pretty dark episode. I mean, ends with her winning, but it's a lot of darkness in there, where she kind of becomes a Sith. Maybe Screecher's Reach, the darkest one we probably get. Also ends with someone being a Sith. In the Stars ends with people being the last two of their species. Pretty dark. I'm Your Mother, very fun. Journey to Darkhead, decapitation of a Sith, pretty dark. The Spy Dancer loses everything. Finds out her son is an Imperial, and maybe that's going to be good, maybe not. The Bandits of Golak has an Inquisitor who's terrifying. The Pit has someone chucked into a pool of death. So they're like, you know what?
Empty pool of death.
Here's the empty pool of death. Chucking someone into an empty pool. Oh no! And then this one, I think that's a good point, that you end with something that is lighter, that is hopeful, and good wins, and there's felt, and it's bright. That's a good point. Maybe that is why they ended that way, that they kind of want to end on a higher note.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I was looking back through season 1 towards the end, and kind of seems all over the place. But it was more. Yeah. all of season 1 was more Jedi versus the Sith, Jedi versus the Sith, Jedi versus Sith. The last 5, anyways. So it shows like Akiri was the last one, and I was trying to think, like, does this one end more on a sorrow or a kind of Sith level, but it didn't. It was just Jedi versus Sith. So it says,
Yeah.
But I thought that maybe there was something in the planning to where season 1 starts at the light side and then goes a little bit dark, and then we go from the dark and back to the light, and then we just have this wave. But I think we're thinking way too hard into this. I think they just.
I agree. I think they just upload them. So then, let's think a little hard here as we wrap up and look back at the season as a whole. Charles, I know you said you had some thoughts on the season that you want to get out, so I want to hear those, and then I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the future of Visions as an initiative. Should it keep going? If theoretically there are a limited amount of Star Wars products that can be made, right? If we're saying there is a certain amount of resources that can be allocated, we would theoretically lose out on something else to keep Visions. Is that worthwhile for us to keep going? And if so, what some stuff we might want to see from season 3? And if not, what might we want instead? But Charles, I want to start with your overall thoughts on the season that have been burgeoning for you after watching these ones.
Yeah. So I think that for me, it's got to be the right amount of uniqueness and the right amount of making it feel like Star Wars, which is there's definitely a balance there that you have to strike. But
For sure.
I commented as we went, the ones that were really unique and really went for it, I kind of liked a lot of those things as long as they weren't breaking things that felt Star Warsy to me. So like the dance room we talked about, very unique, animation very different than anything else we'd seen, but there was stuff that was taking me out of the story. Right. And I need it to still feel grounded enough in Star Wars. So it's a balance. And I think also making it a complete story, like we talked about, is the other really important factor. So all that said, I really like Visions as an initiative. I don't have any problem with putting resources towards things like this for 2 reasons. One, Star Wars Resistance had how many seasons? And that's a lot of resources I would have rather put towards something like this.
Fair.
Sorry,
Just
JG.
being honest, I know a lot. I know JG loves that. I'm sorry, JG. That's just my personal opinion. The other thing is there are certain stories in here, like the Bandits story, where I know for a fact, despite how much Star Wars has tried in recent years, or at least since the Disney acquisition, to be more inclusive, there's no way there has been any near representation of Indian culture in Star Wars the way that there was in this 18 minutes
Absolutely.
that they put together.
Absolutely.
And so I know there are people out there watching these and they recognize elements of their culture that they really don't get to see on screen in massive properties like Star Wars. And I can't even imagine what that must feel like to them. So I really like how they gave these stories over to so many different groups of individuals. And I think that animation is a great way to do that. It's not like, hey, here's a feature film and I hope that enough of the masses like this because we have to make back millions of dollars. No, it's this is very classic, sandbox experimentation, and some are going to hit and some are going to miss. And it depends on the individual and the exact audience. But if it's hitting like that for someone out there, that's so important and so cool. I absolutely support it. I hope that there's going to be a Vision season 3.
Love that.
Yeah.
Wes, what about you, man?
Well put, Charles. You took all the words out. I was going to say the exact same thing. But, I mean, Visions, I'll take it or leave it. The stories themselves are, they are good to watch for pure entertainment. I don't think that it either strengthens or weakens my love of Star Wars for the franchise or anything. But looking forward, I would hope. And speaking of season 1 and 2, so season 1 was more Japanese, Asian culture. We had, I don't know how many episodes were 10. I don't know. So I would hope that this is the tournament bracket has been set, right? So we take the ones from season 1 and the guys from season 2, and the best ones went out, and we have longer episodes from each of these studios, because you can keep pumping out 20-minute from each studios around the world, but give these guys a bigger platform. Give them a longer concept to, hey, now we've seen the feedback from these episodes and that people like them or whatever. We're going to give you another chance to make a longer episode and get your studio out there, get your cultural like philosophies and everything else out there. I think that would be great, but maybe they need a season 3 to do more studios from around the world and then just start picking the best ones, and you just like go to the very end and you get like a, I don't know, hour-long special or something that's on put out on Disney
Plus. It's weird that they don't do something like that, considering they made a novel based off of the pilot basically for this concept. So it's
right.
I mean, it does make sense. How cool would it be if they did what you're saying, Wes? Like, everyone votes on like their favorite, and whichever one gets the most votes, you get a mini series spinoff. Like that'd be incredible.
Yeah. I love that idea, and I agree with you both on a combination of like, I would love these first 2 seasons to be used as like a training ground or an audition, which is what we've kind of speculated some of them might have been anyway, for these animation studios to then get more work. I mean, that's how you get work in entertainment, right? You make stuff, and then you show people the stuff you made, and they say, cool, here's money, make more stuff. And I think that having these folks have their proof of concept within the smaller part of Visions would be great to have season 3 be less episodes, longer episodes. If you need to keep it, the same footprint, that's totally fine. I would love that. Even like in season 1, I think the creators, if I remember correctly, the creators behind the 9th Jedi episode said like publicly in interviews, they said, oh no, we have a whole story. Like we have a whole movie-like thing we can make with this. I think they are chomping at the bit to do it. So I would love that adjustment for season 3 to keep the cultural relevance, to keep the amount of unique artistry they have going with it, but really take the time now between 2 and 3 to pick your studios, really give them some leash to work with. Because I think they can really make something special. And even if it's like 4 40-minute episodes, whatever, something like that, I would love that. Now, is it going to be for everybody? No. Like you said, I'm not going to revisit a ton of these all the time. It's not going to have effect on the Star Wars canon as we need to. And maybe, like you said, Charles, for the longer ones, there needs to be a little bit more of, okay, we're going to let you do this. You need to tie into Star Wars in this kind of way. Not canonically, but you do need to have like the Empire, or you do need to have like some lightsabers, like something a little more specific, so it's not just the vibe. But I don't know. I think that could be really fun. I'm glad I watched these. I'm glad they exist. And I do think that they are more successful than some of the canonical storytellings, because I think there's less pressure for them to be as important. We put in so much importance to these things. They can just exist. So
yeah,
I hope they do it.
Let them stretch their legs, kind of figure out what to do. So, and give them
Absolutely.
money. That's why. That's how you get up to like make longer ones and more elaborate and better quality, is give them money to actually do it.
I mean, hey, apparently Disney's saving $1.5 billion this month from writing off all those shows that they cut. So it's got to go somewhere, right?
Somebody's bonus check.
Jeez. I would love a one. You know what? Here, I'll be nice about it. I just need a $1.5 million bonus check. I'll be the nice guy. That's it. I'm reasonable. Oh man. Well, so that's our thoughts on Visions. I'm excited to see if it keeps coming back. The next visual storytelling we're getting is Ahsoka, so I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of episodes surrounding that when it comes out. But before all that, next Monday, June 12th, we are doing our High Republic Path of Vengeance Roundtable. We're finishing up Phase 2 of the High Republic, and so I'm running this one. It's gonna be very fun. And we're going to talk about this story, but I have a feeling the majority of our conversation will not only be about those characters, it will be about Phase 2 as a whole now that we have the pieces. So tune in for that. If you've been a fan of the show for a while, we've gone back and forth on the validity of Phase 2, on the choices of the artists to go back in time before Phase 3. Now that we have all the books in here, I'm very excited to talk with these fellas about how that worked for us and what we can look forward to in Phase 3 coming in the fall. So we'll see you for that next week, because for now, that will do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, thank you so much. A special thank you to Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Carl Sander, Zach W, and Michael Fry on our Jedi High Council, and James T, Ashley Ingalls, Colton Fife, and Chris Carrizo on our Alliance High Command. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson, Charles is at C. Henkel, Wes is at Boss West, and the show is at Living Forest Pod. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. Thank you to Charles and Wes for potting with me. Thanks to all of you for hanging out, and as always, may the force be with you.